Welcome on our webinarium about using Excel in Human Resources Department. Today I will show you a few functions that are very useful when you are dealing with dates in the Human Resources Department, HR department. First of all, we will cover problems with length of projects, and we have a clear situation like here when we have start and beginning and the end of the project, and we want to calculate what is the difference between these two dates, and we want to have it in months because we want to check how long these projects were or are, if they are still rolling. So to calculate that, there is no open function. Unfortunately, Excel provided hello very much. Welcome on our webinarium about dealing with dates in Excel and the Human Resources Department. To our Zoom participants, if you want to ask me any questions, you can do it via the chat. So if you want, you can open a chat and then you can ask me anything about what I'm talking about. So, as I was saying, we want to calculate how long the projects that we have here, the dates between these projects, how long the project is going or where, and we want to do it in months. So, for example, this project start of 12/09/2015 and ended on March 2016, and we want to calculate the difference between these two dates in months. Excel stores dates as numbers. If we change the dates that we see here to the general format, we'll see that they are just numbers. So if we subtract the end of the project from the beginning, we get the answer that this project lasts for 171 days. But unfortunately, with the months, it's not so easy to calculate it. If we just divide this number by 30, we'll get an answer that is 5.7. And this is not a clear answer, and we want to know exactly how many full months this project were. To deal with that problem, I'll change it back to the short date format. We need to use a function that is in Excel, but it's hidden. The function is called datediff and was introduced to Excel 2000. Unfortunately, in some specific situation, this function makes mistakes. It can give you a negative number or a zero in a specific situation. So Microsoft decided to hide this formula, and unfortunately, of course, because this formula is very useful, because in the future examples it will also show us how to calculate how many years there is between two different dates. The function goes as follows: datediff, and if you start to type function like date, you'll see that he suggests 4 different functions: the date value, the edate, and get pivot data. Because of course the DAT that I write it here is inside these functions. If I start to type more, if I put datediff, there is no suggestion that there is okay, I'll fix that. Okay, give me a second. How about now? Now it should work. Great. So, as I said before, if we put date, it suggests us 3 different functions. But if we go further and write date diff, there is no suggestion that there is any function like this, because as I said, this function is hidden. But if we open bracket, there is a small suggestion that there is a function called date diff. Unfortunately, because this function is hidden, Microsoft decided that he will not suggest what is the construct of the function. So if you want to use it, you need to know it and need to know what kind of arguments, what you need to put inside. So before we continue, I'll create a small text field to make a notes for that function. So it will be date diff, and there will be 3 different arguments inside the function. The first 2 are very easy and I'll say pretty understandable. And the first one is the start date, this is the date from what we are counting. The second argument is also easy, it's just a stop date. So it is the date to what we are counting. I mean, not to what, from which we are counting. The third argument is problematic. It's easy to understand when you know it. So we'll start from the m as a third argument, because this argument, the third argument, can be quotation mark m quotation mark. That means count months. And you can also put here quotation mark y quotation mark count years. And of course quotation mark d quotation mark count days. So we'll get back to our topic. We have the start date and stop date of the project here. So we just put date diff, open bracket, select the start date, semicolon, select the end date, semicolon, semicolon, quotation mark m quotation mark, because we want to know it in months. And now have the answers when we fill it, that this particular project that we have in the row 2 has been going for 5 full months. And that's true because the project started on the 12th day of the month. So in the first, and if he ended on the first day of the March, that means that in March there was not already an anniversary of this project. So that's what's in only 5. If we change this date to, for example, 25th of March, we'll get 1 additional month, because then the anniversary is already there. And there is many useful application of this project, of this function. If that was dates of usage of a particular machine, like in a factory or in your company, then you have the information how many full months this machine is working. If it was a car, for example, in your fleet, then you'll have to know how many full months this car is used in your company. And of course, the other situation is to calculate the years of service. if we change it to the y argument in the function. For example, we have a table of the hire date. We'll borrow the text box and continue here. We want to know how many full years of service we have in this particular employee. So we want to know years of service. So we go with the datediff function. But before that, I just want to also introduce a very unique function, because in this situation we have only the start date. We don't have the end date of these particular employees, because there is no particular end date. We want to have to be updated automatically. So as a stop date, we'll use a very useful function called today. The function today is one of the easiest function in Excel, because the construct goes as follows. You put equals today, open bracket, close bracket, and that's it. The function you don't need to put any arguments inside, and this function just gives you the actual date. And because this function updates automatically every time you open a particular Excel, then with this function you can create a document that will be updated automatically. So we can now go with the function. So it's datediff, open brackets. As a start date, we'll put the hire date of the particular employee, and as an end date, it will be today function. And as a third argument, it will be quotation mark, y quotation mark. The size of the letter doesn't matter. It's just the letter y, so it can be uppercase and lowercase. That's not the case for this function. And now we know that this particular employee works for us for 2 years, and that's of course true because he was hired on the 9th of February 2018. Just to be clear, we are using the European date format, so it's days, months, years. Let's fill it. And now we know how many years, full years, our employee is working for us. And calculating years of service is a pretty problematic thing, because how to do it if we don't have this function? We have similar situation here when we have calculation how to do it without the datediff function, because if we want to calculate how many years this particular employee has of service, full years, that's easy. You just subtract from the actual year 2020 the year of hiring is 2018, so the answer is easy, it's just 2. But before that we need to answer the question, did this employee had already anniversary? Because like in the third row we have the employee that was hired on the 19th of December, and that means that 2007, so the subtraction 2020 minus 2007 is 13, so in that matter the 13 is the answer. But our employee didn't had yet the anniversary, so the 13 isn't the final answer. The final answer is 12, because you need to subtract 1, because this particular employee didn't have this anniversary yet, so you need to subtract 1 from this. And this is a particular situation when using few different functions of Excel, you can create a mechanism that will calculate you in the end on the last column the same answer as the date function. And the mechanism works as follows. First of all, we'll divide and take this information from the hire date with the year function, month function, and a day function. We take out the information from the particular date, that it is this particular year, this particular month, this particular day. Then with the year function again, but this time as a information for the year function, we use today function. We subtract and we generate the year from that is actual year. Then we create this subtraction, so we'll subtract from 2020 to 2018, so we have the information how many years there is between these two particular days. But then we need to check if the anniversary already is this our anniversary already done this year or not. So then we use of course the analyze. We create a date from the year 2020 and the month and day from the higher date. So this particular function creates us 9th of February 2020, and then check, is the today's date greater than the anniversary date from the actual year? So the date that we have 2020 9th of February, and today we have of course greater day because the February is already over. So the answer is true. This anniversary is already over. The anniversary already happened. So if the anniversary already happened, the answer for our question is the number 2. In this third row we have the false, because the anniversary of the 19th December 2020 is greater than the today's date. And with this true-false function, we can use the if function to create a simple formula that goes as follows. If the answer is true, like in the column H, if the answer is true, select the calculated original year's difference. That's the answer. In this case, answer is 2. If the answer is the anniversary over is false, the function create a simple subtraction and take the year difference and subtract 1. So in our case, in the row 3, we have the answer false. In our check for the is anniversary over, if it's over, select 13, subtract 1, and the answer is 12. So in that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns, we created a mechanism inside Excel that divides the higher date between years, months, and days, puts actual year, and of course it's again using the today function, so it will be updated automatically, then creates the difference, then analyze should we subtract 1 from this difference because of the anniversary, is it over or not, and then creates it. Of course, all these functions can be created and can be put in one function, and in that case we have beautiful function that do all these things together. We have here the check, is the anniversary already over? If it is, we then move to value if true, and it's here it's calculated and put the difference, and if it's not, it's analyzing it again and then subtract 1. So all this 6 columns can be put in one function, and then we know the answers, how many there's years of service. But of course, this function, this mechanism that we create, don't answer the question how many months our employee worked. And this is another problematic questions. So we just should use a simple dateDiff with the m as a third argument. So knowledge of years of service for an employee, knowledge for how long the project lasts in months. This is very useful. For example, we can also here analyze months of service. Let's assume that there are not employees, there are like devices like printers or machines in our company, and we want to know how many months of service we had on this particular machine, and we have now here the production date or both date when we get this machine. So we'll create the dateDiff function again. We use as a start date the higher date, that in our case, in that matter, will be the production date or when we bought the device. As the end date, we again will use the today function, and as a third argument, this time we'll use m argument for months. And now we have the information that this particular devices lasts for that many months. This information, how many months a device is used, is also very useful, as I said before. And again, how long the project lasts. If these dates in column A were the beginning of the project, then we'll know how long the project lasts. The third argument, when we calculate the days of service, it's also sometimes useful. It's hard to now find some particular cases when you will use it, but okay, it is there, so you can use it. Start date. As an end date, we'll again use the today function, and as a third argument, we'll use the d for calculating the days. And calculate days, okay, it's hard to find any particular like business situation when you will need it, but okay, it's there. The other thing is that because Excel stores dates as numbers, and today is really a number, and the higher date is also a number, so we can do the same as we did before. We can just subtract. If we'll subtract from today the higher date, we'll get, of course, in a format general, we'll get the same information, because this is a date and today is also a date, so it's days of service 2, let's call it that way, and we'll have the same information. So we don't really need the d argument in the end, because we can do it just by subtraction. So it's not very, I will say, very useful, but it's there. The problem starts when we go with another arguments, because we can also add let's go yd argument as a fourth argument, and this information gives you the answer. It's the days after anniversary, and okay, we'll need some particular cases when we'll use this information. So let's create this function. So it's again datediff today as a second argument, and this time yd. So now we know. Let's paint this column green and this column yellow or orange. Now we know that this particular employee works for us for 2 years and 171 days, because 171 days are after his anniversary. So 171 days past his last anniversary. It's hard to find business situation when you will need it. And the fifth argument, we can go MD, and it's months after anniversary, and it will go as follows: months after, let's call it that way. So it will be datediff, and again I'll write it down because we need it to know this particular construct of the function very well, because Excel will not support us with his solution how to create this function. Today and MD. MD. No, my mistake. I apologize. I want to YM. YM is months after anniversary. So in this time it will be yellow column. We know that this particular employee works for us for 2 full years and 5 full months. It's hard, as I said, to find any particular argument and in a particular situation when you will need it in a business situation. But if we use the last third argument, and this time it will be MD, it's days after monthly anniversary. So when there was how many days after his last monthly anniversary. It's hard to explain, but I'll create it and then it will be a little bit more easy to read. So days after last full month, or let's call it that way. So it will be date-diff a2 today and md. And this will go to blue color. So there were 21 days after his or her, of course, after this employee last full month. And now if we use the green column, the yellow column, and the blue column, let's hide the other one for a second. Now we have weird information. Now we know how many full months, full years, column B, full months, column G, and full days our employee worked for us. And this is the only really situation that I can come up with when you will need it. It's 2 months, 5 years, and 21 days of experience. But I'm trying very hard to find like a business situation when you will need it. So why this function is hidden? It gives us very useful information. It gives us very useful information of years of service. As I said, we created a mechanism that calculates that for us in 7 columns, and the mechanism works only for years of service. It cannot answer the very useful answer of months of service, months of usage of this particular device or project or machine in our company or in our factory or something like this. So months of service is very useful, like business solution. Why this function is hidden? The function is hidden because it makes mistakes. The function makes mistakes sometimes, especially when you compare the end of the month. And when you compare the end of the month with the argument md. Only when you are using the md argument in the function and you are comparing between the end of months, especially when it's a leap year, when the February is longer, this 1 year each 4 years, the leap year, and you are using the md argument, the function sometimes can give you a -1 answer for the md argument. That's why this function is hidden. And because it sometimes makes mistakes, Excel decided not to fix it, not to delete this argument, because not really a lot of people use it. This md argument, it's not very useful. They just decided to hide it, and the users, if they know it, they know about the mistake, or they should know about the mistake, and if they are using it, it will be there to decide. So this very useful function to calculate the years of service, or as we had before, the length of project in months, is very, very useful. If we, for example, want to calculate how long the project is going, or how long the device is used in our company, a car, a printer, or any machine in a factory, this answer, the months of service and the months of usage, is very, very useful. And unfortunately, the data function is a hidden function. But as I said, we can create the years of service as a algorithm with the if function analyzing everything, with some subtraction, some analyze of the days, of the date, months, and so on. But it's still a mechanism that we need to create. We need to figure out how to do it and how to create it. But Excel unfortunately hide this function. Are there any questions about the function? No? Great. So I will show you just two more very easy functions, also used very often in the HR department. First of all, the function that calculates you the end date after a particular number of months. Of course, it's easy to calculate it. I want, for example, to know when the project ended if it starts on this particular date, so we have it in column A, and it lasts for this particular amount of months. We have a project that can last 6 months or more, full years or half a year, and we want to know what is the end date. The function is very easy. The function goes as follows. It's called aDate, end date, and contains of two different arguments. The first argument is easy, it's the start date of the project. The second argument is how many months you want to calculate, and then gives you the dates. Of course, as many situations, in many situations, we need to change just the format to the date, and now we have the answer. If the project starts of the 3rd of May 2020 and goes for 30 months, it will end of the 3rd of November 2022. If it starts on 18th of October 2018 and it lasts for 24 months, it ends of 18th of October 2020. Very useful function if you want to know what will be the date after a particular amount of months. Of course, you can go backwards. If you have the date when the project ended and how long it was, you can go with the aDate function, just put the start date, but the months you just need to put negative numbers of particular months. And again, we need to change it to the date function, to the short date, and we'll have the start date. And now we know that if the project starts on the 9th of February 2021 and on the February 9th of February 2021 goes for 36 months, it started on the 9th of February 2018. Very useful functionality, very useful function if you want to calculate the beginning or the end of the process or the project or something like this. Sometimes you want to also calculate in the HR department a very useful, very important thing, the period of notice. We want to know when our employees would finish their working for us with the specific situation of the specific number of how many months they have on their contract of the period of notice. We could use the aDate function, like for example, I want to know that my employee would finish. He gave me the information that he will quit on the 2nd of August 2020, for example, or like in the other cases, like on the 7th of July, and this particular employee has a 3 months of notice. So I want to calculate when he'll stop working for me. But if we use the aDate function, it's not calculate correctly, because with the period of notice, you need to change the logic between it behind it, because you don't want to know what will be in that matter, what will be the date, this date. but you want to do it in a different way. You need to finish the month when you received the information and then calculate, in this matter, 6 full months. So in this situation, the employee will finish the month that he gave us the notice, and then you need to calculate the 6. So we are looking at end of the month date, and the function that we are looking for is EO month. EO month, and it goes very similar as the edate function. You put the start date, you put the number of months, and it calculates you the date end of working for me. So if our employee gives us a notice of the 17th of August 2020, and he has or she has 6 months on her contract for the period of period of notice, he or she will end working for us on the 28th of February 2021. As we can see on this C column, it shows us only the ends of the months. And of course, we can change the numbers for these particular cases. Like here, we have this situation when someone informs us that he don't want to work for us on the 11th July of 2020. This particular employee has 3 months in his contract, so he will end working for us on the 31st of October 2020. This function EO month counts very easily the period of notice. Thank you very much for the participation.